tons of shootings. I've probably been primary on probably 20 homicides and been to another 200-300 easy. My fear is that people are going to be overzealous in looking to make a career on an incident.
What's going on, fam? The next guest is truly dedicated to ensure the next generation of the rank and file gets the best contract and all the respect and support LAPD sworn employees truly deserve. You're about to meet Chris Wecker, and rather than me telling you about him, here is his promotional short video of him running to be the next Union Director. Take a look.
Hi, my name's Chris Wecker, and I'm running for LAPPL Director Office number 8. I became a police officer in 1994 with the MTAPD and lateral to the LAPD in 1997 when our departments merged. I've spent the majority of my career on patrol and was a P2 for over 20 years before I promoted. As a sergeant, I've worked a number of different assignments, including obviously patrol, OIC of Vice, and as an adjutant. I also spent the longest 20 DPs of my life in the belly of the beast on the 10th floor working at CTSOB. I survived with my soul and my spine intact and returned to 77th Street, where I'm the AWC on morning watch. I decided to run for director because I came to understand that the only way to make positive change in our organization is either to be the big chief or through the league. And I'm not expecting that the mayor is going to give me the nod anytime soon. I'll be putting out a series of short videos, so feel free to follow me on social media and share them with any of your friends that you'd like to. If you have any specific questions, give me a call and I'll tell you the truth about my belief systems. Please, be smart and be safe.
Chris succeeded and won because they believe in him and because he is ready to face the many challenges union directors face. Look, it's a job that requires so much dedication, commitment, and long hours, man, to be there for all that reach out to him. Basically, it's a thankless job is what it is, but he's willing and able to do it. So, without further ado, let's meet Chris. Welcome to Internal Affairs, a police podcast. Let's do this. Welcome back to Internal Affairs, a police podcast. Another special guest, Chris Wecker. But before we begin, let's give a quick shout out to our sponsors. As you can see, we have this little coin. I guess you could describe it as with the flag that holds the coins for Code 4. Thank you for providing the coins. If you need any type of badges, coins, insignias, patches, get a hold of Code 4. Products and designs. Also, a Titan Group. They are a professional investigations for all types of investigations, whether it's going to be your workplace investigation, internal affairs, police, firefighters, and other source of complex investigations. Get a hold of them as well. And last but not least, as you know, I'm a law enforcement instructor for Savage Training Group. Me and my partner, James Tacchini, teach a 2-day post-certified course, internal affairs and officer-involved shooting investigations. And all three are in the YouTube channel in the links. Don't forget to do that. So without further ado, let's get to it. Chris.
Yes.
Thanks for coming, man. I appreciate it.
Good to be here.
Great. Look, we're going to, I'm going to say not too excited, but I'm really looking forward to having a really good conversation about you in regards to internal affairs, because I know that you have an experience with a particular complaint, or complaints, I should say, plural, like me. You're not the only one. But more important than anything, it's the role that you play now. I know you're just got congratulations and got selected as a union director, which we call the league director. Yes. But look, let's get right to it. The first question right off the bat is, look, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, please rate the importance of internal affairs in a police department and why.
It's funny. That's kind of almost a trick question. When you talk about criminal behavior by police officers, the LAPD utilizes teams like Special Operations Division. Those guys have huge value. Nobody wants to work with Rafael Perez. So in that respect, you're talking about a 10, without question. The fortunate reality is, though, teams like SOD don't have enough criminal officers to keep them busy. So you end up with your 650s doing, integrity stings and front desk phone call stings and following people on contracts and phishing, essentially. Yeah. And when you talk about the weaponization of internal affairs, it creates a scenario where internal affairs becomes a one. So, like I said, it's both ends, actually.
Very good. I really haven't thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right. When you start doing sting operations, if you will, I suppose it's what do they call it? It's an integrity check.
Integrity checks.
Ethics enforcement section is what they call it. And I'm willing to bet, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, today it's probably not as prominent and as strong as it used to be due to the fact that we're just probably, we lack personnel.
Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, I know a lot of people that work internal affairs that are good, hardworking folks, and their caseload is crazy. And that's a reflection of a complaint policy that makes people feel good when you tell everybody, we take every single complaint. And then internal affairs is understaffed like the rest of us. And when you're taking 4,000 complaints a year, 97% of which are initiated by the public come back unfounded or demonstrably false, meaning they didn't happen. You begin to wonder if our policy of making each other feel good about doing this should be replaced with a policy of practicality.
Oh, absolutely. I was close too. I think when I was there between 2011 and 2015 in internal affairs, it was 96.4. So I'm stoked and happy that it remains that way because it's needed. I totally agree. I think it is a 10. Of course, I'm a little biased because I worked there. But with that being said, it is a 1 when it comes to, and you know what? I never really quite understood. I understand the purpose of it, but to really focus on, hey, let's go see if officers are really handing out business cards or they're really doing this and that. And
the thing about that is that, while 97% of public complaints come back unfounded, 50% of department complaints come back unfounded. And that, again, goes to the weaponization of internal affairs. And you're talking about ad charging. When somebody calls in a complaint and says that officer pulled me over for other than a constitutional reason.
Right.
And the body-worn video disproves that allegation. However, that officer didn't give that person a business card. Yeah. Well, that is part of that 50% that's sustained. And it's my view that internal affairs should address, and this goes to divisional complaint units as well, should address the allegations as made by the citizens. And issues of minor misconduct should be referred back to the divisional captain to handle with a conversation rather than damaging morale by ad charging something that didn't even bother the person that they made the initial complaint.
Big machine. It's not perfect.
Sure.
And we do need to continue to make it better. The fill in the blank for this sentence. As an internal affairs investigator, my job is to what?
I'll get to the truth of the matter. It's on everybody's coffee mug at Internal Affairs. And that also, what and I've watched some of your other guests discuss, guys that have worked at Internal Affairs. I've never worked there, but I've know a lot of people that do, and I've obviously been on the other end of Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs will tell officers over and over and over again, we are an impartial investigative body. We accept the complaint, we conduct the investigation, and then we submit that investigation to the divisional command for adjudication. So in theory, the involvement of internal affairs ends upon completion of the initial investigation. It goes to the divisional captain. This is obviously 77th Street, or LAPD. Right. But it goes to the divisional captain for adjudication. Mm-hmm. Then it goes to the bureau for either concurrence or military endorsement. And then the question in our system is, why does it go back to internal affairs? Why do they have a Monday meeting to discuss sustained complaints if they don't have anything to do with adjudication? And why are they present in the chief's office on Wednesdays for signings if they don't have a dog in the fight? If they are, like the coffee mug says, getting to the truth of the matter, the adjudication process, in theory, should have nothing to do with internal affairs.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you know what? That DC and that commander in internal affairs also weigh in.
Yeah,
on
no,
the
I know they do.
adjudication.
I do. And my question is if the chief, who is the ultimate arbiter of discipline, has a
Correct.
question, why is he not referring back to the deputy chief of the bureau or the captain of the division to ask them why? Why did you choose these assessments? If internal affairs, in fact, has nothing to do with the adjudication process.
Considering you would think there is concurrence. And there isn't. I can
well.
tell you from experience at the divisional level, it'll start at an OR, official reprimand, what we call a paper penalty. And next thing you know, it gets to bureau. Okay. And then all of a sudden it goes to internal affairs. And by the time it goes to the 10th floor, you're looking at a board of rights.
I have some experience in this. Yeah.
And however, the same thing where it starts at a BOR. And for whatever reason, it goes to the chief for like, what are you guys talking about? Just, this is just an official reprimand on our paper penalties. So unfortunately, as this big machine that we're going to be discussing, it just seems as though there is no parity, there is no equality, if you will, when it comes to penalty. And I never really understood that. And the only thing, and I think you're probably going to agree with me, is I'm a true believer in the 6 hands of the cookie jar. Or more, that you're probably not aware of who else is weighing in on this decision, it gets personal.
Oh, yeah, without
and,
question.
And it just, it's always bothered me. It's probably one of several reasons why I decided to do this podcast show, is to kind of make everybody aware that in this big machine like the LAPD, there's a lot of levels of review, which, as a subsequent question to you, let me ask you this, and I know we haven't worked for a small agency. In your opinion, do you like a lot of levels of review, or would you minimize it?
Well, I think what you're saying about, people weighing in at several different levels, at the end of the day, obviously discipline is the chief's purview. The captains make suggestions, the bureau makes suggestions, and then the chief makes decisions. What I think is lacking or the problem that I see with it is the human element. I mean, if you're any kind of an investigator, you are forming opinions as you continue your investigation. You wouldn't be a human being if you don't. That, to me, the human element should be removed as much as possible. And when you allow your investigators to get involved with adjudication, they have preconceived notions based on their investigation. And so for our agency, in signings, there is the chief and internal affairs, someone from R&E, and review and evaluation unit from internal affairs. But there's nobody representing the officer.
Yeah.
And so there's, and we may or may not talk about it, about how things get adjudicated, but there's definitely two sides to every story.
Yeah, it's kind of sneaky that way. It's behind the closed doors. Let's make a decision. And unfortunately, sometimes it's not the right decision, and we suffer.
Sure.
I'm sure we can agree to that. I think one of our guests, your colleague, Jimmy Zurich, said it best. The punishment's not really the penalty.
It's
the punishment is the process.
Yes,
absolutely. It's how
absolutely.
you're treated. Nicknames, the stigma. What have you heard besides, I'll run them down for you. You have the dark side, which, by the way, it is, right? It's the dark side. I suppose for every single department, if you go and work internal affairs, hey, you're going to the dark side.
Sure.
Yeah, you're going to be in dark moments in your life. So I get that one. Let's see. What else?
Rat Squad.
The Rat Squad, and also we both know there's a Blue Falcon.
Sure.
We've been called that, but I'm a true believer that there's always one Blue Falcon in every single police department.
Oh, yeah.
All 18,000 in the United States.
Oh, yeah. No, that's it's very true. People have strange motivations.
But because it's kind of humorous, I know we're laughing about it, but I got to tell you, man, it's been around for decades. And another one of the reasons why I decided to do this is maybe perhaps by having these conversations, we can kind of get away from that stigma. What do you think?
Well, I think without question. Like I said, I have a lot of good friends in internal affairs. I probably, over the years, I currently know a bunch of people that work there. I know people that are working 650s. I've known people in SOD. I know the command staff there now. The reality is that the vast majority of people try to do the right thing. And I think, I spent the longest 20 DPs in my life on the 10th floor, working at CTSOB, where I learned a lot. But you quickly become compartmentalized, and if all you see is bad, then you begin to believe that everything is bad. And that's one of the challenges of being a human and being an individual in our business, is to recognize that what you see every day is not indicative of an entire group of people.
Yeah.
So it's the human factor is difficult to remove.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Moving on to the next segment, I'll start with that, is CTSOB. Why don't we tell the audience what that is and what was your job there?
That's Counterterrorism Special Operations Bureau, and I was basically a squirrel. I was an administrative squirrel, a sergeant working for Chief Pete Zarconi. Good man, asked me to come up. It was definitely out of my wheelhouse, but like I said, I learned a lot, and I was able to help a bunch of people. It's basically Bureau for Metropolitan Air Support and Security Services Division at LAPD.
In that job capacity, did you see the internal affairs complaints, or did you even get involved in that type of process?
Well, I saw the beginning of them. I was there for the beginning of the Metropolitan FI scandal, and the Office of Constitutional Policing would bring us videos, a list of officers that they got every day. And the first thing Zarconi always told me was, all right, Wecker, look at the videos, because I had practical field experience. And so I'd watch the videos, and I was able to debunk 99% of them. I would watch a video and say, well, this is normal operating procedure. This is not a violation. Again, that goes to one of the issues, and I don't know if we want to go down that road, but one of the problems that I have, internal affairs is always looking for the next, any detective, I suppose, is always looking for the next big case. And the problem with that in internal affairs, if you're a homicide detective, one of the, a crowning achievement is to solve a serial murder.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of always there. Is this that? Is this going to be that? Is this going to be the big one? A lot of people made their bones on the Rafael Perez scandal. And after all was said and done, it was 5 guys and some ancillary misconduct.
Yeah.
And we blew up the whole department over it. And you look at what's going on, currently in our organization. My fear is that people are going to be overzealous in hoping that, not necessarily hoping, but looking to make a career on an incident. And I think that's super, super dangerous, and it's very much of a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah. Speaking of incidents, you just mentioned the FI scandal. This is as an example of the punishment is the process. That happened how long ago when you were doing that? Was that maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago?
At least. Yeah.
Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's still a couple of officers that are still facing the dark alley of trying to find out to see if they're going to get their job back, or how is this complaint going to be resolved, adjudicated, and can you?
Absolutely, and I mean, there's stuff that's ongoing that obviously can't discuss about it going on, but though, these guys are, I mean, how do you sit at home for 3 years and then the department comes to you after and says, my bad, we were wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
I know exactly how they say it, with a lot of zeros.
And you know what? It's as much as we, LAPD has afforded me a lot of success. You're doing God's work as a union director, but you know what? Accountability goes both ways.
Sure, absolutely.
And when you are sitting at home for 4 years wondering what's going to happen to you, that's just not a practice that we don't want for the future.
Absolutely, and I love this organization. People often misconstrue my criticism as some sort of a hatred of the LAPD. I absolutely love the LAPD. It's given me everything I've ever had, and I've been run through the ringer, more than most, not as much as some, but I've never blamed the department. It's always been individuals. It's never been the department itself. There's things we could change to make it better, but it.
Absolutely. I suppose we can agree that there is a need to be critical in moments.
Sure.
Especially when it comes to discipline. Okay. Trip down memory lane. Let's see. I do know you came out in 1994.
Correct.
Right? And you worked for the Metropolitan Transit Authority, MTA.
MTA.
Buses and trains.
That was it. I was assigned to the Blue Line train from 94 to 97.
The Blue Line. I also worked the Blue Line too. I got hired in 2019, my last stop before I retired at Transit Services Division, because we got the contract in 2017. I'm sure you're familiar with that. In that assignment, you worked Ghost Unit. That sounds so like, wow. I mean, what's it all about? First of all, why don't we find out what Ghost is? Because not many of our...
Yeah, that was actually for LAPD.
Okay.
That was at the Ghost Unit for LAPD. I worked patrol from 94 to 97 for MTAPD. Then there was a merger in 97, and I went to a Ghost Unit, which LAPD loves its acronyms.
Yeah.
Graffiti Habitual Offender Suppression Team.
Remember that.
And in that capacity, we basically targeted vandalism all over the city. We were P2s, citywide P2 detail that plainclothes that targeted taggers. It was a lot of fun. Did that for about 18 months.
I can only imagine just kind of riding buses and trains and trying to look
anywhere in the city.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it was good times.
Good. And then at some point you worked. Now let's go to another, because LAPD loves acronyms. DART.
You're really testing me. After I did my 18 months, I went to 77th Street. So I was there. I got to 77th in about 2000, early 2000. And one of the assignments I did there, I mean, I had several assignments at 77, but the DART team was Domestic Abuse Response Team, which handled exclusively domestic violence calls.
Correct.
So I did that where you worked with citizen advocates and to provide services to victims of domestic violence and arrest suspects.
That's you're doing God's work, man, because I know you and I both know this. Any 273.5 domestic violence arrest causes, it's nothing to take lightly.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's definitely one of the most violent responses, I'm sure, from your experience.
Yeah.
It can be, and thank you for sharing that. Okay, FTO. Did you make FTO?
I was an FTO. Yeah, I made FTO in Harbor.
Harbor PD?
Harbor Division.
That's what it would be.
Yeah, San Pedro PD.
San Pedro PD. That's right.
Probably 2003, 2004. I'd come out of the Vice Unit at 77th Street, so I went down there, made P3. And I was there for about 7 months, and the captain down there put everybody. He didn't like the 312. He was didn't
The
like
compressed work schedule?
Yeah, he didn't like 312 compressed work schedule, so he took everybody. He made a little tiny watch 2 and a little tiny watch 3, and put everybody else on mid watch. So I went to my captain and said, I hate to jump ship, but the ship changed directions, and I was back at 77th within a DP.
Wow. The mothership.
Yes.
Awesome. And lo and behold, we get promoted to sergeant in 2015, huh?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
What was that like?
It was good. I went to, I made that, to roll it back. I had just had several experiences with internal affairs just prior to making sergeant.
Okay.
In 2 years before I went to I went to Newton Street as a boot sergeant. I had taken a 10-day hit and then a 7-day hit and then an admin transfer to Wilshire Division for re-education, and I had a 5-year conditional OR that said I couldn't threaten another lieutenant for 5 years. So, and then I went and took the test, and lo and behold, I banded 3, and so I was.
Which, for the purposes of the audience, it's pretty high.
Yeah.
The band.
Yeah. It was surprising.
Let me take a wild guess. You ended up back in the mothership as a sergeant.
Yeah, I did exactly 365 days at Newton Street, and then was back home to 77th.
Well, good. And you were there as an assistant watch commander?
I was there as a field sergeant for a number of years, and I actually worked as the vice supervisor there, and then I worked in an admin capacity as an adjutant, and that's where I met Pete Zarconi when he was the Captain 3 there.
Perfect. You know what? I'm going to save your current role a little bit later on in this episode, because I know it's very, very important. We're going to talk a little bit about it, but now I'm going to leave the floor up to you, because you and I have been talking, and I said, hey, man, you got to tell me an IA story, one that's going to definitely, get some nuggets, get some takeaways, and perhaps we can learn something from it. So tell me, what happened, man?
Sure. I took a 7-day hit for unauthorized 4th unit in a pursuit, which was rather zealous punishment. The scenario was my partner, Dale Lopez, and I. Dale actually just recently passed away. I went to his funeral last week. He's a good man. Him and I were in 77th working in ACAR as P2s about 2015 or so. And Southeast, the division to our south in Watts, was coming into the division in pursuit of robbery suspects. They had 4 suspects in the car throwing out guns and ski masks and things like that. And the guys that were driving were young, and so they didn't recognize that they needed additional units as they moved into an outside division. And the supervisor was also young and didn't request them. So we sat and they drove right by us, and we looked at each other and said they needed, coming into 77th. So, and we looked at each other and said, well, they need another unit because they can't set a perimeter in an outside division. They don't have enough people. They need the help. We haven't been authorized, but we're going to get pinched if we go. What do we do? And we both said, well, they need us, we'll go. So we got in the pursuit. We went about 3 blocks north on Hoover to 82nd, and then went from Hoover to Figueroa. They went down Fig into Southeast, and we broke off. So we were in the pursuit for maybe 30 seconds. And it was a giant pursuit, and there was 20 units, and it was a big cluster. And we were found out of policy, and we were given an admonishment, which we both thought was fair. We knew we did it.
Yeah.
We did it on purpose. We did the right thing. We understand. So we took an admonishment. It went to Bureau for adjudication, and Bureau military endorsed us to 3 days. And both of us thought, all right, I'll sign for 3 days. But wasn't happy about it. Felt it was a little egregious, but, no problem. Then it went to signings, and it was military endorsed to 7 days. So this is a first violation for either one of us. Never had an out-of-policy pursuit, never, again, we were in it for 30 seconds, no adverse action, no crash, no TC, nothing. And so I opted for a board of rights. I went and hung the board and spun the wheel. My partner, in his classic laissez-faire attitude, decided he would take 2 short vacations that year and just took
get paid for it,
and
right?
just get paid and just took the 7-day hit. Yeah. And in the interim, I banded 3 for sergeant, and because I had opted for a board, I had to discuss the discipline, including my previous discipline experiences during my interview. And so they already banded me, so I immediately called my attorney and said, cancel that board. I'll take a 7-day vacation because I'm not going to give them another bite at the apple. And so I took another. I got 2 shorts that year too. Actually, that year I got 2 shorts and 2 longs.
Yeah, you know what? Your thumbnail for this episode is going to be 30 seconds, 7 days.
That's 100% correct.
Let me ask you this: if you didn't ban, having to reflect on it now, you would have continued to go over your board, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was sort of a blanket indictment. The chief had decided that he was going to give all P3s 10 days, all P2s 7 days, and all P1s were to receive an OR that were involved. So because it was a convoluted pursuit, but the vast majority of those officers involved in that pursuit took it to a board of rights and were found innocent. So I would have undoubtedly beaten it, but I was not willing to run the risk.
Yeah, and it is a risk. I can tell you.
In those days, it was 2 captains and a civilian.
Yeah, no, totally. And you don't really know what the outcome's going to be. I suppose your other option could have been waive your due process, admit to guilt, but do an admin appeal hearing and say, you know what, 7 days is just too harsh. Well, even to 3. To be quite honest with you, I'm going to tell you from you, I've had a couple of cases with pursuits where we did an admin appeal hearing.
Yeah,
especially first time around.
Sure.
Paper penalty admonishment. We're good.
Yeah,
because we can't say that you didn't do it. So it's sustained no matter what.
We weren't making that argument. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of harsh. Man,
seemed so at the time.
How long ago was this?
Well, I got admin transferred in 2013, so it would have been about 2012.
Okay, so we're talking north of 10 years.
Oh yeah.
In today's LAPD, for this particular caper, how do you think it would have turned out?
Hard to say, but probably very similar, quite honestly. Right. That for those days, it was unusually harsh. Now I would say it's probably, the vagaries of the complaint system are almost too many to measure. There are too many variables and too many people with their, too many soups in the, too many kitchen cooks in the soup. So it's kind of hard to say,
Yeah. the other thought that I had in mind was, what are the lessons learned? Well, I mean, what can we take away from this in this particular scenario? Because my takeaway is go ahead and keep going.
Yeah, no. I'm old enough that I was working under Bernie Parks when I was watching friends get fired left and right for just about anything that could be done. I'm still on Tier 3 because I knew it was only a matter of time that I was going to get pinched hard, and I needed to be able to, at the very least, have a pension vested in 10 years. So I have always worked, and I'm not, people have a real misconception about people in the South End. I mean, the department tends to believe that we all think we're gunfighters,
Oh, absolutely.
And that's nothing, in my experience, nothing could be further from the truth. It's most of the guys that I've worked with I was a radio call handler. That's what I like doing. See the man, see the woman. I was a P2 for 20 years. But that's, most of the guys that I worked with were very humble and very good at what they did. And even today, my guys at 77th are still putting in work. I've got 2 guys on my watch on watch 3 that had 40 pursuits last year. 40. That's more than the entire West Bureau.
Wow. And out of curiosity, any of those were all in policy?
All in policy.
Nice.
Yeah, they should be teaching at EVOC.
You know what? They should be.
Yeah.
To your point, I'm going to go ahead and go on the record to get a hold of me and definitely get a hold of you. And I say this on a serious note to say that if you're going to get involved in a pursuit, we both know the policy, but there is exceptions to the policy. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, sure.
The circumstances will kind of lead to, hey, you know what? Based on these circumstances, we got to go and help out.
Yeah.
Especially with 4 occupants in the car, they're committing violent crimes. We got to go. Yeah. With that being said, on a first offense, you know what? The lessons learned, keep going. Yeah. Meaning, if for whatever reason you end up at the divisional level with admonishment, and by the time it gets to the 10th floor, it ends up with 7 days, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
You know what?
You can very rarely go wrong doing the right thing.
Challenge it.
Yeah.
And if we're going to do an admin appeal where we're going to waive due process, which is your opted order rights, and we're going to just do a mitigation type of an administrative appeal hearing, go for it. Yep. You know what? We'll argue that, look, Chris and his partner, look at the circumstances. However, we're not going to talk about the actual incident in it itself. We're going to talk about the individuals. And these 2 particular individuals have never had an out-of-policy pursuit, have never had a CF number or a complaint on their record, and here we are facing 7 days. That's a little too harsh.
Well, and both of us had, 17 years on at the time, or 16 years or something. We were not children. We knew exactly what we were doing and why, and we made the right decision. I don't regret it at all.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Lessons learned, man.
Yeah.
Chalk that up for that, right?
For sure.
Anything else before we move on to the next segment that you would like to share about, any other, about your job assignments or anything that kind of sticks out that, we would like to know?
No, I don't know. My experience is very limited, in all fairness. The vast majority of my career here at LAPD was serving the citizens of South Los Angeles, South Central, as everybody calls it, that lives there. Mm-hmm. And, it's very rewarding. One of the things you never see on TV and that you never hear in police commission meetings is that, 90% of the people that live in South Central are good, hard-working, blue-collar folks. Mm. And they can't attend police commission meetings at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday because they're at work. And they're the ones that we stand up for. Yeah. And I regularly tell my officers that, the 10% is well represented by, activists and attorneys and those kind of things. But we are the ones that represent the 90%. And so, I put my cops out every day to go do good work and put criminals in jail on behalf of the 90%. And I think that's, I think it's undersold by the department. And I think, in all fairness, there's a huge section of our department that don't know that and don't understand it.
Which, I'll touch on it now. You are a union director. Kind of make me, not so much make me, actually help me understand what are the challenges today. Because I've been gone for 2 years, yep. And I know in 2 years alone, it's going to be 2 years in July, but I know in 2 years alone, there's a lot of challenges sure. That you face. Can you kind of describe the challenges that the department faces with the rank and file, if you will?
Well, I mean, morale is like I compare it to the Bernard Parks era. The morale is on patrol. Morale is super low, and that is almost exclusively due to the weaponization of our disciplinary system, the Monday morning quarterback of, when you've got 3,000 people on patrol and 7,000 people sitting in judgment of them, they begin to feel isolated, and they begin to feel that all the work that they're doing is being second guessed. And body-worn video, the reviews and assessments of body-worn video at a screen-by-screen basis is patently unfair to the officers who have to make those decisions in a split second. And, it's funny because at LAPD, post-Rodney King, we spent 20 years telling the public that video doesn't tell the whole story. And the instant we got it, it tells the entire story. And it just doesn't. And the fact is that there's things that officers see and do and feel in the field that you can't see on video, and that doesn't show their intuition and their view and their understanding. It's a fisheye lens versus the reality of being there, and those things are simply murdering morale. I could go on and on. Our pay grade advancement system
absolutely
has become a farce. Our pay grade advancement system is a popularity contest. We have deviated from the Jacobs Plan initiated in 1971 in an effort to magically achieve some sort of parity in the pay grades versus recognizing merit in the pay grades, which is what it was designed to do. Our promotional system, though, in my opinion, having been to the Sherman Block School, I don't know if you ever went to that.
I never did.
Hearing other agencies talk about their promotional systems, where if the chief likes you, you're in, and if he doesn't, you're out. There are certain aspects of our promotional system that are way better than others, other departments.
Yes.
But there are certain aspects of our promotional system that are ridiculous. I mean, where do the questions I just took the lieutenant's test, and where did the questions come from? And having worked on the 10th floor, I know how that happens. And it's basically the city goes to the chief and says, hey, we need questions for the lieutenant's test that are related to police work. We don't know what lieutenants do. What happens is they farm those out, and it's a contest among the squirrels who can come up with the most obscure reference to a special order. And having sat the chair for almost a decade, I just took this lieutenant's test, and maybe 10% of the questions were relevant to the job.
Yeah.
And that's damning to the guys who stay in the field.
100%, man. I always wondered how is it that we can change, and it's time to change. I mean, that lieutenant test, the sergeant test, and even the FTO test for that matter, the P3 test, there's no testing. Yeah, it was a hard test, and they actually made it where, hey, if you have a whole bunch of years, you're eligible to...
a whole bunch of 3 years.
Whole bunch of 3 years, and you're eligible for it. But as it relates to the sergeant exam and the lieutenant exam, you know what? Let's change it, man. It's been around for, I'm sure that's an uphill battle.
I would imagine, yeah. But I mean, you have to ask yourself, where's the very first place you get assigned as a new sergeant or a new lieutenant?
Yeah, that's...
Patrol,
yeah.
So it would help if you knew that job.
Yes.
You would think.
Yeah, or they ask you questions about the job.
Yeah, to demonstrate the knowledge of the job that you intend to do.
You know what? You're absolutely right, because now that I think about it in my sergeant exam, I don't think there was like maybe not even one question related to the fact that I went straight into 14L60, and that was quite an awakening.
Yes. No, it is, for sure.
Interesting. Any other challenges that you can share?
Oh, I mean, at the league, like,
what's that job like?
Yeah, well, it turns out it's not Baker to Vegas in the In-N-Out truck. Who knew? It's a lot of politics, working pensions.
Your phone is ringing.
My phone, so I was elected on the 30th, and my phone started ringing on the 1st of February, and it hasn't stopped since. And that's just, that's what I signed up for. It's part of the job. But the ancillary duties of directors are numerous and onerous. There's 9 of them, and these are things: pensions, workers' comp, deferred comp, drop program, the politics and the political action meetings, dealing with internal affairs, dealing with ERG, dealing with command staff, officers calling to resolve issues. It is a full-time job plus some.
That's good for you, man. You know what, Chris?
Who knew?
Who knew? And, I can tell you as an alum, I really, truly appreciate what you're doing, because when I worked at Officer Rep Section as a defense rep, oftentimes I get calls from directors saying, hey, Marlon, you know what? Can you help me out with this, or can you do this? And it's just, the phone just doesn't stop. All the rank and file looks to you to solve all these problems.
Sure.
And you know what? I'm certain, because I've known you, that you're going to do a outstanding job in that particular capacity. Okay, the next segment. This is the one that probably touches me the most. Worst and best. Let's go with worst incident or worst radio call you had. And I know you got one because you were a watch commander and you've worked a lot of patrol time.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that on the way in, because I've obviously watched the show before, and having worked patrol for so long, and where I worked, I saw a lot of death, and all varieties, from Sid's death to naturals, and then, tons of shootings. I've probably been primary on probably 20 homicides, and been to another 200-300 easy. In the early 2000s, we had 185 homicides a year, so it's not, it's not uncommon. And in different divisions do things differently. 77th Street, which is where my experience lies, the primary unit assigned to a homicide manages that entire preliminary investigation. We don't send the watch commander out. The sergeant is there as an asset only to provide them resources if they need anything, but the officer runs the homicide scene and sets the, secures the evidence, does the door knocks, does all that stuff. So I've done a lot of that. The thing that sticks in my head, obviously, is kids. I remember a good friend of mine, Dominic Fuentes, who was also just recently passed. Seemed like everybody I know is dead. Good man. Was primary on a TC involving family with, kids, no car seats, that kind of thing. Everybody ejected. And I remember getting there, and it just absolutely just burned into everybody's brains, And those are the kind of things, you just put them aside. You go to the desert room, and that's that, That's what we do.
Before we get to the best, are we doing anything in regards to mental wellness? Because I know that is something that's lately, I'm on LinkedIn a lot, and there's even firms that have, law enforcement coaches for mental wellness. Is there something that component into hopefully with LAPD or?
Well, I have to say the department has just grown leaps and bounds when it comes to recognizing the effects of incidents like that. Again, in those days, we'd go have a cocktail and talk about it, and that was it.
That was it.
We send people regularly. It's now policy, people involved in traumatic incidents, we send them to BSS so that they can talk about it and get themselves cleared. And when we order them so that there's no room for a stigma. If everybody has to go, then everybody goes, and then it removes the stigma of asking for help. And I think the department's done really, really well moving towards, taking care of their officers in a way that we probably never have before.
No, you and I can agree. 20 plus years ago, that wasn't even unheard of.
Yeah.
Behavioral science section where they have psychologists for you to actually just to talk to someone. I can tell you sometimes I would work a mid PM watch and I get home at 2 o'clock, and there'd just be moments where I just sit there and just, kind of like decompress a little bit about what happened. And, at the speed of the South End, because, it happens more frequent than some divisions in the Valley. So I appreciate that. That's really, really good. Awesome that the department is really looking into that. And you mentioned something that sticks with me, and hopefully one day I get to share is SIDS, the sudden infant death syndrome. I had a situation to this very day, and I'm taking you back to 2001. So that's 22, 23 years ago. That still sticks in my mind, and I appreciate that. So best.
Without a doubt, to me, the camaraderie, the relationships that I built, and I tend to not particularly associate with cops. I've got friends, my best group of friends are not policemen, but I've developed good, strong friendships over the years, and simply coming to work with a group of people that have the same mindset, that are interested in going out there to help and make a difference in a community. And when things, early good partners, I've had 3 or 4 really, really good partners over the years. I worked with Hal Jones in the early 2000s. Him and I were 12 Adam 66 for like 5 years. I worked with Joe Franco. He's in homicide now. Super solid man. Redbone Franco, good man. And Dale Lopez, my friend that just passed away. We were great partners together. And those are the memories and the relationships that I'll miss when I retire.
Speaking of drop program, right?
Oh yeah, drop. My first day of drop is tomorrow.
Deferred retirement
option program.
Correct.
Correct.
You do 5 years and.
I'm going to do 5 years. Yeah, I'll do the full 5. I have to wait
5.
for my wife is also on the job, and I have to wait for her to turn 50.
Yeah.
So.
And you told me it took you 13 minutes to fill out all the paperwork, right?
It's a LAPD record.
I appreciate you for all that. Look, we're at the end. This is the part where I leave the floor to you for, as you may know, there is a young, 20-year-old kid that's just trying to come on this job, maybe even an explorer, right? From 18 that's trying to come on the job, young police officer, young sergeant that's probably want to promote to lieutenant, a lieutenant that probably wants to promote to command staff throughout the nation. What kind of advice do you give someone about this career?
I think at the end of the day, this is a noble profession. It's the funnest job in the world. I've had a blast. It's just been a raucous ride. I mean, just all the way through. I've had nothing but fun. I've met great people, pure adventure. I think that, for our LAPD people, for the young coppers, I tell them over and over again, this is a blue-collar profession. I know everybody at Parker Center wants it to be a white-collar police professional, but
yes.
It's like any other blue-collar profession, like bricklaying or selling cars. It takes 5 years to be a journeyman and 10 years to be a master. So stay in patrol. Know your body-worn video policy, know your use of force policy, and know your pursuit policy, because those are the 3 things that will get you fired or indicted by this rat that's at the DA's office.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, man, thank you for coming down. Really had a enjoyable conversation with you. We haven't seen you in a while, and congratulations on your new job. Let's keep in touch. If you ever need anything, I know your phone's going to blow up. Someone's going to say, oh my God, internal affairs, I got this 128, and what do I do?
Happens all the time.
You know what? Give me a call. I would love to help you out as much as I can. And thank you for coming. We're going to wrap it up. And of course, like always, you know what? Be safe out there. And you know what? Don't forget to go Code 6. We're up. Thank you.